Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to the Power Platform Today show. Today I have got on Francesco Musso, or as many people may know him, Franco. He's well known already in the community, and I'm going to switch over to... Oh, wow, I'm really having a bad day today. That's you on live. Franco, please do introduce yourself. Say hello to everyone.
Hey everyone, I'm Franco Musso. I'm a Power Pages freelancer in the UK, and I like to spend as much of the year out of the UK, out and about, free. I'm a freelancer, and the whole point is that the word "free" in freelancer. But I've done just about everything within the Power Platform stack. I'll usually do a holistic project that happens to contain Power Pages, rather than it be I just come in narrowly focused on Power Pages. So yeah, everything from the data model to the finished product. But I love really the user experience side of it and the interfacing with humans, which not all those techies do.
No, I think that's a fair point, and that is one of the more unique, useful traits in what we do. When you're quite technical, but you also enjoy the people side, it makes a massive difference, especially in what we do, because so much of it is just taking people through, well, what can you do? Like quite often what you implement is not necessarily fully custom stuff. Although you do quite a lot more of that with the Power Pages side, but certainly on the model-driven app side, and even to an extent Canvas apps, there's a certain way of doing things. And so it's part of the job is talking them through, well, this is how it works. This is what the app does. This is what platform does. That's a very useful skill. So Power Platform, how long have you been in the world of Power Platform and the community side of things? What was your introduction into the community?
2006 was when I started on the Microsoft stack.
Okay.
So with Dynamics CRM version 3.
Nice.
Very serendipitously, but it all worked out well. And then in the community since, I believe it would have been 2020, and you were a mentor of mine for getting going on Scottish Summit with my Spotify clone. So thanks again for that. That all went quite well.
It was easy. I mean, you were already at that point. I swear you were polished. You knew what you were doing at that point, so you didn't need a massive amount from us. And that Spotify clone.
Yeah, so it was kind of a turning point. I think Sarah Jones and Kim would attest to the fact that. So that one I spent maybe 9 months preparing for. Now it's like, right, if I've got 10 minutes before the session starts, I'll create some slides. Otherwise, we'll just do it ad lib or a live build or whatever.
Yeah.
It was good to experience one at least well prepared. That's something that lockdown gave me.
It was funny actually because this was for Scottish Summit. There was like an intro to speaking type program, let's call it. Basically, they just set up, a few people joined it, and some people that had already done previous presentations would help to mentor. And so we basically listened to your presentation and a few others, and we went through a few sessions of, this is what you might want to do, maybe consider this, maybe the tempo here is a little too fast or too slow, maybe tweak this part, and that's what we were doing. But I swear, when you did yours, it was like light and day. All of us that were on the call watching the presentation were like, this is good. This is engaging. It's interesting. It's a fantastic technical sort of demo of what it is. So yeah, no, you smash it out the park. And you've gone on from there to do even more. That's the thing I noticed with you. So on LinkedIn, I see people on LinkedIn all the time. Obviously, spend a lot of time there, and a lot of people spend time there. I see a lot of you being the first commenter. So yeah. I've said this to multiple people now. Community is not just about the person standing up front and doing the presentation. It's not about the people entirely just consuming content. It's about the engagement. And what I see from you is you are one of the best cheerleaders of other people. It's fantastic to see. Where did that come from?
Thanks.
Like,
I appreciate it.
Is that something you purposefully go out to your way to try and do? And where did that come from?
It comes naturally. I'm from a big family. We're all kind of self-starters and cheerleading one another. But yeah, I know it takes a lot of effort to put your neck out there and neck on the line and share something. And I say I was a new speaker at Scottish Summit. Really appreciated the support I got. But again, I'm freelance. I'm working solo. So when I am working, it's nice to just reach out and say, "Oh, cool, yeah, I appreciate that perspective." Is almost like it's the workplace banter, but it happens to be on LinkedIn. But yeah, especially if I've taken something useful from it, or it might be something I've already known, I already know, but packaged in a novel way. You know, here's a fresh perspective on
Yeah.
it. And yeah, if there's some of my experience I can share. I really enjoy the mentoring part as well.
Yeah. No,
I appreciate you picking up on that. Nice one.
no, it's absolutely, it's amazing to see, and it really is. I see it there, and it's good to see. Sarah says best cheerleader. uh, so that's interesting. 2006 when you got into CRM, and three. I mean, that is going back. So for me, it was the tail end of four. Coming into 2011 was when I got into it. But from 2006 to 2020, I appreciate 2020 is when you get into presenting, but were you aware of the community before that? What was your... Oh,
No,
right, okay.
pretty much not at all. So, well, annoyingly, I worked really close by Chris Huntingford at around the same time he was down in Reading, and I had absolutely no idea the community existed, nor him, and nor that we were so close to one another. I think as much as I was aware of any kind of community was Jukka Nairinen's, I'm sure brutally mispronounced that, but his blog was a godsend. And in fact, funnily enough, sometimes I would Google what I think is like an impossible problem. It's probably worth trying, who knows. Google that, and then the result that I find is my comment on Yucca's blog. So, must be possible because I've done it before. And then I start reading it and thinking, oh, I would word it just like that. Oh, it is me. But yeah, as soon as I think then my next clue that something exists out there was Megan Walker. And yeah, she's the one who suggested I go ahead with Scottish Summit. I think I'd commented on the fact that she was going to be speaking. I'd love to see her session. But yeah, she was a big part of getting me involved in the community.
Nice.
But then I'd almost be biting my tongue each time. Say, "Oh, I've just come up with this really cool thing. Only you'll kind of understand it." I learned a lot of my portal starting points from Megan. And as soon as I've done this cool thing, I'm really happy with that. She's like, "Cool, blog about it." But why don't I mention that? As much as the knowledge, I absolutely hate writing. Love brainstorming, creating the odd random note. As soon as it comes to actually fleshing it out and finalising and putting a solid example together, that is like getting blood out of a stone. So each time I say it, I'd almost like, try and catch the word, pull the words back in before they get out into the big wide world. And show, no, you've committed to it now. Blog post.
It's hard to do that. Like some people, it comes naturally to them. You mentioned Yuka. So I saw a post from him recently on LinkedIn when he was talking about why he writes, why he does what he does. And for him, it's just a means for him to actually think. And that's what, there's a number of different people that I've seen over the years that I've talked about how they got into things and what they do and why they do it. Blogs, more often than not, blogs are written because someone wants to actually keep their own knowledge, which is funny that you mentioned about the comment that you put on someone else's blog post that's why people blog quite often, is so that they can reference themselves later on. I know that some people like to do that. I did a little bit of blogging in the past and it was for that kind of purpose, but it was also for things like just stuff that you think, how is that not there? How do people not have already blogged about this, or why is it not a thing? And then I'll write a post on it, and then if it helps someone out there, it's useful. And I had one of those. Yeah. I mean, I did a 2021, I think it was. It was something to do with, it was workflows. It was my most engaging post. I haven't done that many, but that one I got a multiple, like a few different comments on it to say, this is really useful. Thank you so much. And it was so good. So good to get that feedback, because then you know that it made a difference. And that's kind of what I like. But yeah, so blogging can be tricky, especially if you're very technical. Like, because I imagine it's similar. When I want to do a blog post, I want to do a proper in-depth, this is what I did, this is why I did it, and do the detail. And that, as soon as I think of that, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I've fallen for the same thing, definitely, that going to that perfectionism and depth trap, thinking that it's got to service beginners right up to advanced experienced people. And I mentioned to Sarah a few times that actually what I could have done is just said, here are a few code snippets, make of it what you will, but you won't find this anywhere else. And the subset of people that help could have been unblocked like 5 years ago, that rather than got to wait for the Power Pages course of all courses that I'm working on at the moment. Could have nicely said, yeah, well, here's some more to push things along, just with a few code comments or something like that.
I swear you probably have a massive knowledge base of content snippets and settings that you would be able to put together in a fantastic referenceable web page. Even if it was like one page that you could just search for something. Because I know there's settings and there are content snippets that do stuff that Microsoft doesn't necessarily document, or just has slipped the Microsoft documentation, because it was in ADX back in the day and it's never really been removed, but it's also not like it's not supported, it's just not documented.
Well, in fact, funnily enough, a session in each of my modules for the course that I'm thinking of is going to be best practices. So it's a little hacks and workarounds that have somehow become assumed as best practices because someone's done it once before, it works, it's performance. All right, yeah, it's now best practice because Microsoft haven't built a supported way to do it. So yeah, lots of these quick wins, I think, would just be the MVP for the course. Very much could be, like, say, those kind of things, but in a logical flow, and here's taking a pro A to Z, rather than just a lot of them tend to be more like a reference guide. So you know the name of a tool, here's some information about it, but when you've no idea what the tool's called or when to use which tool for which business problem, I think that's a big gap as well. But yeah, I think when I mentioned the people side before, you were saying definitely on the one side, it's just showing them how it could and maybe, but also there's the equal challenge from the businesses side to articulate what it is that they want, because they've not necessarily come at this thinking, I want a technical solution. It's just we've got this business problem. We're told in some way, shape or form that Power Platform or whatever tool that you're using could be a fit. And it's doing that translation in between.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just listening in the first place and knowing in fact that maybe I shouldn't be speaking to the CTO, I shouldn't be speaking to the IT manager, not necessarily even department heads. It's the boots on the ground people that are the closest to the problems. Like sometimes a lot of the superstars in Dynamics, for example, are the ones that have come out of contact centers. It's all just about, right, this is how we need to prioritize. This is how we firefight. This is what happens when we need to maybe account for people on different shifts, people in different departments, escalation. And then, all that detail would be missed by us techies if it was, I'll only interface with the IT people.
Yeah.
And then they're the most satisfying, I think, when you hear from them, here's how it's benefited, here's how it's changed things around, and here's where I can see my input shining through. That's the kind of thing I love.
Yeah. I think you and I are very similar in that regard, because like the techie stuff, I love the techie stuff. I do enjoy developing. I still do it very much so, day in, day out. And given a role on a project, I'd quite happily just sit there and program plugins all day. But I also do enjoy working with the customer directly when you see them going on that journey, when you see them starting off, what's this Power Platform thing anyway, to the point that they're using it day in, day out, and they're coming to you and saying, oh, I created this view. You showed me how to do that. Now it's really useful. Look, you should see it. It's really good. I love that. And that to me is one of the most engaging parts of the role. And that's one of the reasons I like Power Platform, is because you can get to that. If I built the software to do that, there's no way I'd build in all that kind of flexibility and customization. Like, you just wouldn't. If you were building a business application of some kind, you build the features, the things that are needed. You don't build the platform. And that's where the Power Platform is useful.
It's funny that you mentioned views of all things, because back when I was a trainer, that was my first way in as an end user trainer. So it was long before I actually got to get my hands on customizing and using the tech. But if I wanted to strike up some rapport and solve a few pain points each time I would go on to a new contract, it would usually be with, here, I'll set up an advanced find, share it with the department. Because I'd do some shadowing of people, and they're like, oh yeah, so I need to deal with such a case, but I don't know which one it is, because obviously the column that I need isn't in the view, and you can't filter by that, you can't search by that. But that's not set in stone. I can change that for you. So it's like, oh, you just change. with creating a saved view, you just saved us, like, without exaggeration, maybe 500 clicks in a day.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a worthwhile thing to do. So yeah, that was kind of the, oh, I've got a little hack now. I want to get in with everyone on day one. Just find out the views that cause the most problems, or what each person's doing manually every single time. Just like, well, there's a save view, save it with the team. And yeah, those skills, as it happens, those fundamentals have stuck around pretty much unchanged from 2006 to now. So
Yeah.
it was well worth learning.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I make sure even on the portals that those things, they're not overlooked. That as part of the data models, we've got the status reasons, the filters, not all kinds of fundamentals that make the rest so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's it. It's taking people on that journey. It's showing them how to use it and empowering them, giving that option to be able to do it themselves. Because no one learns if you just tell them. Like it doesn't work that way. You have to show them a little bit, but really you have to give them the opportunity to learn themselves. And I find one of the most compelling things that I ever do on a project is I usually have a clinic. So I have a weekly call where it's just an open time, anytime, it's usually a set day for about an hour or two, and they can drop in. Anyone can drop in and ask a question. So it's, how do I get this? I'm trying to get this information. I don't know how to get it. What can I do here? And that helps with engagement on a project more than anything else I ever do. Anything.
Oh, yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, but yeah, it's the kind of thing that, especially as an end user training, because besides other things, you learn to hear the problems. First of all, you pick out what are the priorities, but you learn to hear those problems in the user base's words. So actually, then when you're delivering the training, it's like we don't need to do the translating anymore. That's usually my official job, universal translator. But yeah, I already speak your language. I know what those pain points are, rather than just. But we'll send you to some corporate training company. You'll get some generic Dynamics or Power Platform training, and it's your job then to try and translate it to the real world and make it actionable. I'm all about making it real for that customer and let them feel heard. I think does a lot to drive engagement and adoption.
Yeah. So going back to the community side for a bit. So 2020, you start when you do your first presentation. At that point, or from then, are you presenting at every conference you can get to? Like, what's been your your journey from there?
Well, I'm laughing there because this is quite embarrassing to articulate, but the whole point from, say, 2021 onwards was that I had the idea that I'd create my online course. So I'm going to be presenting at more and more conferences with the point that the call to action is there's now some brilliant Power Pages training out there. Here's where you can learn the fundamentals, advance, whatever you want to do. So like all 2021 went by, and like, oh, I've done all the promotion, but not actually the course. Same with 2022. Last year I was all around the world with the same intention, and then some client work would come along that says your priorities are now my priorities for a bit, so the cost goes on the back burner again. But on the plus side, do really enjoy it, and I've got no end of client work out of the conferences. So it worked, but not for the intended purpose.
And have you got plans to blog, or are you very much not wanting to do that? Then is that something that's in your future?
I'll be blogging. I'll be blogging as well, but that's definitely when inspiration strikes, and it will be, like you mentioned before, it'll be a deep dive into that topic. So I don't see much value in me putting any Me Too content out there. So it's always been very much what is not covered yet,
right?
And I'll cover that well.
Cool.
So, like, for example, boring example, but the security model in Power Pages, I hadn't seen that covered well, and not with real world analogies and stuff like that. So I did a deep dive on that probably 3 years ago, and that's still performing well. And then one I think Megan had a question about, so I was excited to answer that one. That was how to use that pass information between pages with URL parameters. So I thought I'll go to town on this one just as a nod to Megan, and put a note in that one.
Nice.
But yeah, it tends to be either what I've struggled with then make sure, right, no material exists on this, or at least not in the depth or perspective that I wanted to cover it in.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's awful. So as and when those things come up, I'll be doing that.
Cool. It's a bit of an aside. I'm interested because on the technical side of things, so blogging, obviously you go ahead and get a website and do stuff. Now, a lot of your day job is making websites. Have you built your website and your blog from scratch, or what technology are you using? This might be a bit too geeky for anyone out there, but I'm intrigued. Have you just...
Yeah, it was whatever would get me up and running quickest. So it's WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
WordPress, an off-the-shelf theme, and yeah, it was just about being able to get that content out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So, in fact, my first Dynamics wasn't my first love tech-wise. So I did bits of everything from Photoshop to video editing to web dev, architectural plans, so all kinds of side hustles over the years. But the consistent one that kept coming up with was WordPress. So when you can imagine when portals came out, I was like, oh, I've got the HTML and CSS experience, and I've got operations from years in business, and I understand Dynamics. Actually, that's a really nice little melting point. Even though it wasn't a strategic decision, I didn't know it was going to randomly pop up on the product list. It was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense for me now. Yeah. And especially having done, I know you got experience with the classic workflows. Having built beasts of those in the past that was pretty much about send a communication to the customer, tick off a task to say you've received it back, key it into the system, do something manually to kick the process along. And the amount of delays that came up with that customers aren't available when the staff are. Staff that own a certain case might be off for that week, or the shifts don't align or something like that. Just like, oh, the customer can self-serve and push the process along themselves, and yeah, cut out all those unnecessary calls. Like, where's my case up to? Just give all that transparency and self-service. Right, that is me. That's me all over. Definitely. If I can't be a barman, DJ, stuntman, or the first choices of career, then yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Wait. Barman, DJ, stuntman. I love the order here. I want to go through this. Like, barman first or stuntman first?
Stuntman would be the most natural. I think the only problem is that it's all through clumsiness. So I'm not sure I could intentionally have.
Oh, I think we're losing a bit of connection at the moment. Yep, I'm still here, sort of. 1 second, I'm gonna see. Just give me a moment. I'm gonna see if there's anything. All right, folks, just bear with us a moment. I'm gonna see if there is anything we can do here, because I think between it could actually be me. Okay, I'm gonna just pause something that I've got. Cool. Right. That might help.
Just gonna try.
Yep. Ooh, that's interesting. Video's disappeared, but you're still there.
Hold on, hopefully I'll be on another device.
That's all good. So this is the joys of live stream with technical things. I've been quite lucky so far to date. I think so.
Well, from the dodgy connection, dodgy tech is on my call, but you just have some far-flung locations.
It happens. It happens. Sarah says that you may have spilt Vimto on your laptop.
Sorry, almost. I think.
If the background's anything to go by, then you're in space. Connectivity is difficult up there. I should have like a little hold screen. That'd be quite an interesting thing to have. Technical difficulties, like the classic.
Yeah, in fact, you could add lib a little hold song. Reese, if you can hear me.
Actually, I shouldn't make any sounds. YouTube might flag me as content copyright.
Oh yeah, definitely try not to be too accurate.
It's all right. I could never be accurate if I tried. I'm tone deaf as tone deaf gets. Seem to be getting a little bit better though. Just trying to work out what I can do with this in the future. So one of the ideas I had at the beginning of the show was to have like a little video track thing that would play in the middle to share with the presenter. Maybe I should bring back a little bit of that to throw into it. And here's one I prepared earlier.
Right, so I'm sorry. I know this is rubbish for the live stream. Could you possibly drop the Teams chat in the Teams link in the LinkedIn chat?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, the only one I got to hand is the without my failing laptop, the YouTube link. Just not going to be much help watching myself rather than joining.
One moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it over to host only. So it's just me on the stream at the moment. And then I will get that. So you're looking for the link to join back on? Cool. Oh, where is it hiding these days? That looks like it. And the heck, where is it? It used to be in the people section, and there was a thing in there that you would get the download meeting. Oh, wait. Oh, for goodness sakes. Right in front of me. There it is. One moment. Here we go. You know what? You're audio-wise, you're pretty good. So I'm going to bring you back in there, so you are live, but the video might struggle.
Right, fingers crossed.
That is the link sent. Cool.
That's it. Cracking background. Can you hear us now?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you quite clearly.
Just need to.
Although, now I can't. I don't know if you're saying anything.
Right, camera engaged.
Oh, there you go. Hey, hello.
Sound.
You're back on.
Can you hear us now? All right.
Looking good.
I was going to say perfect, but it's far from perfect, isn't it? So
yep.
Apologies for that. This is a good example of, rolling with the punches.
Absolutely fine. But that's the thing. So it's an interesting one. So we're presenting, being up front in front of people and something goes wrong. Have you had that experience? Because to be honest, the way you've dealt with that has been fantastic. So it makes me think that definitely been presenting at some conference or user group and something's going on.
I would say the worst I've ever had to deal with was I was training a load of staff on the NatWest Business CRM rollout. They sent me up to, I think it was Aberdeen. room full of high-powered bank people, and there was just no internet connection whatsoever. So no system. And as far as I knew, we might have it in 5 minutes, we might have it in 10 minutes. So just, first of all, just shoot the breeze, have a bit of banter, do a bit of whiteboarding. We actually didn't have any connection for 7 of the 8 hours.
Oh,
Everyone,
ouch.
everyone would manage to stay with us, and all very nice about it. But definitely, so when we got the script, like, see, so that's like what I scribbled up here when I said, like, you need to focus on the command bar or whatever it was. And I had a
Impressive.
similar experience in Manchester UG. I think that was the start of June, where for some reason my laptop just wouldn't play ball with their AV equipment. And then fellow presenter Catherine kindly lent me her laptop. What we didn't realise was the AV everywhere in the building shuts off at 8. So it was just like, regardless of like laptop or not,
Wow.
no one was seeing anything. So it just turned into a bit of a fireside chat and question and answer instead.
I mean, that's the thing. It's the flexibility in that sort of live situation is to just get on with it and do it. I know some musicians I've heard over the years in interviews that one of the things they will say is when they're playing a live gig, it's never perfect. There's always something that goes wrong, and they just keep going. Like it's if you stop and acknowledge it, it becomes a problem because
Well,
especially
in fact,
in something like music.
I believe Dave Grohl broke his leg jumping off
He
stage
did.
and
Yep.
yeah, saw out the rest of the gig
Yeah,
and
that
then
was
got
amazing.
started.
Because he went off. They looked after him, but he was like, "I need to go back on. These people have paid to be because it was at a festival. It wasn't even just was him." And I was like, "I have to get back on. There's not a lot of time." And they're like, "No, no, you can't do it." And it's like, "Just get it strapped up and put me back on." And it literally exactly that. They wheeled him on in a wheelchair, and he kept going, even though all the medical advice was, "Don't do that."
That should be definition of rock star, shouldn't it?
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of mishaps. As I say, I'm quite a clumsy person. So even when the tech doesn't let me down, I remember I'd been in had a class full of delegates, hanging off my every word, doing some decent storytelling, and I'd done a Johnny English. I accidentally caught the height adjustment paddle on the office chair.
Right.
So as everybody's gathered round watching, there's no way of stopping it. I'm going slowly down for like 35 seconds or something like that. And once just like eyebrows above the desk, then pump back up into visibility.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Oh, there's been a few fails I've seen that have been quite interesting. One was spectacularly handled from Andrew Welch. So he was on last week, but I was at one of his sessions where the laptop didn't work. So like you described, it just wasn't working with the stuff they had set up. So no matter what they could do, nothing would happen. And the organizers, so I think this was Scottish Summit. It was one of the ones at the Glasgow Uni that they do there. And so they had the tech person there that deals with the AV, and they were sort of fussing over the laptop while he was chatting and talking. But he just went on with his presentation because he knows it so well inside out. He just presented from memory. And he still provided a lot of good value because he knows it and
Respect.
and he can just roll with it. And that was amazing to watch. But again, it's a muscle. The more you do it, the easier and the more practice you get in there, the easier it is. I saw someone else do a session, and it wasn't her first, but it was relatively early. And it just, nothing quite worked. You could see from the beginning she was nervous. And then she actually had cards, like actual cards. Was it cards or was it a full written out? I think it was actually written out. So she had paper in front of her and she was kind of reading it like a statement. And at one point she did drop it. And when she picked them back up, she was trying to put them back together. And it was, she was so nervous. But that's the thing. You've got this seasoned pro, done it loads of times, rolled with it, and beginner where something goes horribly wrong. And it's just, you feel such panic for them.
Yeah.
But there isn't anything like doing that kind of live presenting. At least,
No, and I think definitely I like to use a lot of analogies and real life stories in in the session. So that certainly helps things keep rolling when things go wrong. So it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, what's the story I made up about this? It's like, yeah, here's what actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get a lot more engagement. People are very forgiving as well, as long as you're
Yeah.
making the effort and picking that thread back up. It would be a novelty to do one very polished, exactly as it was meant to be, start to end sessions at some point. I presented with Sean Astrahan recently, and the polish and the engagement that he puts into his sessions, like, yeah, we're definitely two ends of a spectrum. I'd like to pick up some of what he's got.
Yeah, I did something similar where I was presenting with Kevin Green. He's a guy, he's an Azure MVP, and I worked with him one of my previous places. He's based in Ireland. Great guy, really, really good guy. He's been MVP for something like 12 years or something, because he was first in the service, in the server side of things, so server management, and then naturally progressed to Azure. So we did a presentation together, and it's exactly like that. I'm not one that prepares heavily. I like to roll into it and just do it, because I find the preparation for me is onerous and not at all enjoyable. I prefer to go through it. Now, it does mean that any presentation you ever go to that I'm doing is going to be a little bit rambly. That's just that's what I do. But there will always still be content in there because I've got certain points that I want to hit, and that's always what I'll do. But it was so interesting.
It kind of fits the name as well, though, doesn't it? Could be your nickname.
Well, I mean, you say that. That's my other stream. So I do this because I loved the chat side of things. I've always wanted a chat show. So that's what this is. I just love talking to people. And so that's a big part of this. And the community itself has given me so much that this is just a little bit of me talking to people in the community in not community stuff. I quite like talking a little bit more to people about who they are, what's brought them to this world and all that stuff. The other thing I do is Rambling Reese. So that's where I do ramble and talk through building stuff. So that's my other stream that I've been starting to do. And that's my persona. I like it. I always picked it up. So I've got Rambling Reese is my website.
I would have thought Ramble Campbell, but...
Oh, I love it. Ramble Campbell. I'd never even thought of that. Oh, Rambling Reese is the one I went with in the end. Rambling Campbell. That could be my third persona. Yeah, cool.
I think it's really nice to have those conversations because we've met at conferences. Not everyone gets that opportunity. So to do it vicariously through other people. That even when you got such great friends in the community, so often that the events themselves are so busy. It's like the people you want to speak to are there, but it's a hi, bye, and see you in the next country next time. So to be able to double click and go a bit deeper on those things, definitely nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, we've not really covered that in previous conversations so far. So do you find when you're at conferences, how do you find it when you're at them? Because I imagine you're a recognizable person. So you're definitely, your face and your persona is out there. Like I said, you go out and you are that cheerleader for people. So a lot of people in the community do know you. And I would put you in that category of rock star in the category that you're in terms of Power Pages. It's your name is synonymous with Power Pages. I think it's certainly in the UK.
Big fish in a tiny pond.
It doesn't matter. You're there. and so you're known. And so I think it's one of those things that if people see you at a conference or an event, they probably will come up to you. So do you find that when you're at conferences, do quite a lot of people come up and want to talk to you? And how do you find that? How do you manage that? Or maybe they don't.
I really like it, but often it'll tend to be that the conferences are such big events that it'll be very tightly around my sessions, or I'll have attended another Power Pages session and we'll get involved in the Q&A when they're supporting somebody else. But yeah, what I love about the conferences, there's a core of good friends that I'll bump into more people at random conferences around the world than what I do in my hometown. But what I love is there's always new members of the crew at every single one we go to. So from the outside, it might look like, well, it's very cliquey. Everyone already knows each other. And if you're not already in there, you haven't got a chance. But actually, the reality is, especially with superstars like Nick Dolman, you might think, I certainly did the first, so I couldn't just go and approach Nick, and then he'll just give you a big bear hug, and it's like, oh, here's 10 people that I didn't know existed 5 minutes ago. So come on, that's a qualification. You just need to be there and want to have a laugh and a chat, and that's that. And even in Vegas, I'm not introverted, as you might have picked up on by now. But for the introverts in the group there was in the event app, are you introverted? Let's meet for breakfast, or introverts, let's go for a run, or to
That's kind of cool.
Go and work in a coffee shop together or whatever. So there is something for everyone if you just look into it a little bit. But people will respect you as well. Like, for example, at Scottish Summit, I think when that first one that you'd mentored us for, I think that was when you'd have a different colour wristband depending on if you did want social contact, or you're cool with hugs or whatever, or if you just want to be left alone to enjoy it by yourself. Lots of little touches, but you see, part of what makes them so good is the human element.
Yeah. Well, so we've talked with guests in the past. I've talked about the differences between sort of the online conferences and events and the in-person. And I think the consensus is that knowledge-wise, you can get the same from both in many ways. You can understand the content from a video or in person, but it's everything else in person that just makes it that little bit better. Being there, seeing someone, having those side conversations, those are the things that really make the conferences and in-persons
absolutely
work.
Yeah. And in fact, well, Sean's been on an absolute rip riding tour of all the events now. He's got lots more coming this year, but I was convincing him around this time last year, take the plunge, come on, get involved physically in the community. And yeah, he was talking about like the difference between virtual and in person. I was trying to coach him to the point where he's just saying that it's not about the sessions as such. It's the high fives in the corridors. It's the chatting over breakfast and the coincidental people you bump into in the coffee queue or whatever. That's where all the value comes from. From my perspective, I know it is for a lot of people. And like I said, I've as a freelancer, I've won so much business from the conferences, totally organically. Not there giving out business cards and offering my services or anything like that, but it's just about, oh, you've spoken about a problem that actually we've got as well.
Yeah.
What would you think about this thing? They don't tend to then say, oh, well, we're going to go out to the market, do everything on prices, right? No, you speak our language, you understand a business that's like ours, and yeah, we liked dealing with you. That's it. Yeah, just do things that way. But yeah, otherwise, just the amount of friends that I've made completely organically, just in those random things. I might have sat next to someone on the plane. I think Sarah Jones, the most sociable person in the world. If you left her alone for 5 minutes, she'll have 20 new friends to bring into the group as well. That's kind of how it went at Scottish Summit.
I know Janet in the past, she's talked about that as well, Janet Robb, when she was doing the CRM Saturday stuff. So that was that was the conferences that became the summits, really. Like that was the early days into the summit sort of world. And she said that one of the things that she always did, and she always made all speakers do, was go up to people and say hi and introduce yourself. Because what she found is that quite often you would end up with these speakers that sort of congregate around themselves, and there's all the conference goers, and there might be a few people that are just standing on their own looking very awkward in the crowd. And so she would go over to them and just be like, hi, how you doing? Who are you?
Yeah, she is amazing for that.
She is absolutely brilliant. And she was saying that she would actually, if she saw any speaker just talking to other speakers and not engaging with the people like in that group, she would go over to them and chat to them. A bit extreme, but it worked. They went out and then just started speaking to people. And I don't know what I am, whether I'm introverted or extroverted. I know that I get energized by people. So for me, I think that's extrovert energy-wise, but I'm awkward. So when I'm actually in a room full of people, I more often than not will be in the corner, like trying to avoid people. Unless I see someone, I'll go and speak to them.
And then when the ice is broken, it's very different, isn't it? Yeah. Because I saw that when we were up at Spug and we'd gone to King Tux or whatever it was,
Yes,
the bar
yeah,
where Oasis was discovered. Yeah, as soon as the conversation is flowing, it's
yeah.
great how we've got all these things in common, and yeah, it's just it's no longer a chore, is it? I think the only difference with me is I've been brought up in bars, restaurants, nightclubs, so I'm just constantly surrounded by people. And as a contractor, I've been the new guy for whatever it is now, 20 years. So I think that's the only difference. But yeah, absolutely, it's worth going through that initial discomfort if you know you enjoyed the convo once it actually gets started. But yeah,
That's
I saw it with
actually
so many people. At Scottish Summit and other events that, like I said, that from the outside it looks like the gangs are all already formed, everyone's already in their cliques, and the reality is that just because we happen to be on the next table at the bar or sitting close to each other in the airport or some random mix of events that's meant that's put us together serendipitously. And yeah, all you need to do is just take a step over and you'll be welcomed in usually.
Yeah, and it's kind of going to the conference there again. One of the other things that I found, even just on Friday, so I was at the Asian Con in Manchester.
Oh, nice.
It was really good. It's the first AI conference event thing I've been to because I'm slowly dipping my toes into that pond. But randomly, before I even entered the building, I walked past Laura Graham Brown, worked with her in the past, and she was driving in. So I didn't know she was going to be there, but there she was. So she was waving frantically from a car going past me. And then just as I get to the door, there's a guy who runs over and he's like, "Reese, hi." And I looked around, I was like, I recognized him, but I couldn't put the name. I just, my brain was just not doing that. I found more recently, maybe it's just old age, but names come slower to me. But faces I tend to recognize. So I was like, I know this guy. Remind me? There's that awkward moment of, I know you, but remind me who you are.
I've had that at events before where you know the names there on the badge, but so I'm not going to embarrass myself by breaking eye contact. So, hi, Reese Campbell. Reese. Hi. Oh, Reese, you.
Nice. I think
Nice.
it's one of those things. So he said, "Hi, Lorenzo," and I was like, "Of course, yes, I worked with you like 12 years ago." And I still remember him. He's someone I worked with at my first consultancy, and there he was. And it was just such an interesting encounter. I would never have expected to see him there, and there he was, because he's actually based up here. So he also traveled all the way down to Manchester to do some work, to go to one of these things. But that awkward moment of who is this person when they come up to you. I mean, personally, I'm more than like I'm happy to just at that point go, "Oh, hi, remind me who you are," because it's just, if I don't do that, it'll just be even more awkward later on.
Yeah, you might as well own it, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny. I went to an event at A&S. In fact, I've been to quite a few quality events at A&S. But I think sometimes it's seeing people outside of the context you would usually expect. So for me, it's an event and I'm expecting to see community people. For Keith and Craig that I bumped into, it's just a day at work. So I said, "Oh, hi, mate," as we passed in the corridor. It was passed in the car park. Like, "Oh, hi." So they clearly had no idea who I was. No, I don't mean that in a, you know who I am kind of capacity, but we've spoken to each other so many times online. And then when I mentioned afterwards, like, "Oh, it'd be good to get time for a coffee together or whatever next time." Like, "Oh, that was you, the guy who said hello in the car park." Oh, mate, I'm so embarrassed.
It's such an easy thing to do. Like, it's, especially if quite a lot of your conversations are on Teams and things. Like, people think, "Oh, I see your face, I know who you are." But when you meet someone, people are so much more than a two-dimensional face. Like, there's this one guy, I worked with one guy. I worked with him for a few years, and then eventually we met at a Christmas night out. And admittedly, he got a lot. Everyone was saying, "Wow, you're tall," because you just seen someone on Teams, and this person is 6'5", like, he's tall. And so it's the first thing anyone ever says. Like, I never even imagined.
Well, yeah, I found that especially after COVID, where I so many colleagues I'd only ever seen on camera, and I think when they've had the camera way high like that. I think in the, what, like 3'4" or something. And my friend Abdullah came up, gave us a big hug. It's like, oh, especially as he was a junior developer at the time. So I think that also meant that junior, like he's only like, yeah, hi to a grasshopper or something. It's like, no, you're a cycling giant. Glad I was nice to you.
Yeah, it's that's cool. Right, well, we have got to the end. We're going to close out now. That was very, very enjoyable. I have my rapid fire questions, so we're going to fire into those in just a moment. As soon as I bring them up, I have them now. So, favorite Power Platform service?
Got to be Power Pages.
Oh, of course. Excellent. Favorite conference?
It would have been in a heartbeat Scottish Summit, but having just been to Dynamics Minds in Slovenia, I'm in love with that now. That is the one to beat. But yeah, the one that is closest to my heart, that's had the biggest impact on my career, my connections, all my community friends, relationships, it's Scottish Summit. But in terms of the most enjoyable, fun-filled, seaside sun, amazing food, absolutely unbelievable socials and concerts, Dynamics Minds is the one.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've heard that many times, and I'm going to have to try and get there next year. Last music you can remember listening to?
Last music would be a rock ballads playlist on Spotify coming back from the airport. Like, I want something mellow, but I want something that's can probably wail along to a little bit as well, with November Rain, Estranged, and nice. A couple of others, Guns N' Roses hits.
Quick follow-up. Do you hum along to that as you walk along, or are you sort of just doing this?
I'll probably be more like miming exactly how Axel would be singing it, so properly going overboard and overly animated.
Nice. Podcasts or TV?
Podcasts.
Cool. If you had 2 hours with no other responsibility, what would you do?
That happens a lot for me, so I would most likely be in the sea.
Ah, nice. What, even in England?
Good point. I'd be driving to the sea. Do like a coastal drive.
Books or audiobooks?
Audiobooks. And big reason behind that is I'm dyslexic, so it is so tiring to read. I'll read something at a glance. But no way it just said that. And then go back over and go, oh yeah, it said absolutely nothing like what I just took in. And yeah, I can. So reference books, I'll read a lot, but unfortunately, any reading for enjoyment just doesn't work for me. So yeah, audio books. But then I still have the need that I thought, oh well. Usually it's non-fiction, and I'm thinking I just wish I could highlight that part and fold the corner on this page. It's not quite the same experience with an audiobook, but
no, it's very difficult with reference material on audiobooks, because that's exactly it. There's a bit and you want to come back to that. You want to remember that bit, but there's no mechanism. There's no way to capture that, exactly as you say. Yeah, it's interesting. Cool. Glass half full or glass half empty?
Glass half full. I'm not necessarily always with reason, but I'm always the optimist. Always optimist, always looking to the future, always making the best of what there is. And I mentioned before, I'm a very clumsy person, so it's all about the bouncing back.
And you have done that wonderfully in this this chat. I've really enjoyed this, Franco. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. And even with the bit in between, you've exactly that. You bounced back perfectly. So thanks again. And with that, we shall go to the outro. Goodbye. Good night.
Great speaking to you. Cheers, mate.